Hi, this video is a final reveal of the sewing collaboration Sewing for Men with Button and Peep, and if you're interested, please stay tuned. Hi lovely people, welcome to my channel. Josie here, and this is Josie. I'm glad to have you here. Thank you for joining me here. I'd like to welcome all my new subscribers. Welcome to this channel. This channel is all about sewing. I post sewing related content for fabric hauls, sewing makes, sewing reviews, and if that's something you're interested in, you could join the family by subscribing to the channel. And also you could press the bell icon at the bottom so you're notified whenever I upload a new video, so you don't miss out whenever I upload a video, which I tend to do every week. And just like you've read from the title, today's video is a special one. We've had us talk about the sewing collaboration. I'm holding a sewing collaboration with Button and Peep. That's Adelle from Button and Peep. And we decided to come together to sew for the men in our lives, and mostly our husbands this time, because we realized that that's something we do little of. And we thought this would be a way of motivating us to sew more for them. And probably if it also motivates someone out there to sew for the men in your lives, for your husbands, then we shall be winning. And if that's what you're interested in, we also have a hashtag on Instagram, which is hashtag sewing for men, and we requested people who are interested in taking part, who hope to sew for their husbands, to tag both Adelle and myself in on Instagram, and also use that same hashtag so we follow along. And the first part of our series, we are sewing t-shirts for men, and we decided to do that, to start off with an easier pattern, and we requested people who are interested in sewing t-shirts to do that, and also give us recommendations of men's patterns, t-shirt patterns. And at the end of the month, end of July, we're going to compile our blog post with a database of many men's t-shirt patterns. And we thought this would be a good place to go to if people want to try out different patterns. And also about this challenge, we each chose a pattern for the other to sew up. And it's been an interesting one. I went easy with Adelle. I chose for her a simple pattern, and she thought I was up for a British Sewing Bee standard pattern. So she chose one for me, and I was in shock. But I didn't want to give in that I couldn't do it. It was quite a challenge, but I told her I would take her on that challenge, because I could easily have told her to choose another one, but I was like, no, I don't fail at things, I don't give up that easily. So I decided to take her on that challenge. And yes, I could tell you the pattern she chose for me. Adelle chose the men's Hayden Henley t-shirt pattern by 5 out of 4 patterns. And yes, I've sewn up a Henley shirt. Unfortunately, I had a change. She chose this particular one. However, I'd been gifted a pattern, a voucher to a pattern by Love Notions, and they've got a men's t-shirt pattern. So I asked her if it was alright for me to choose another pattern but still stick to the Henley, because I would have cheated if I had chosen a different one. So I asked her if it was alright to choose from a different pattern company but still go for a Henley, because I knew with the instructions from Love Notions I would be able to sew up one. Knowing that I didn't really go into the other, I didn't purchase it, because honestly, if you're anything like me, you've got an option for a free pattern. Would you go ahead and buy another? No. So I had an option, and I asked her if it was alright, and she okayed it, and I told her I would still stick to the Henley. So I went for the Dockside men's t-shirt pattern by Love Notions, and I'll try to attach lines drawing here. It comes with a crew neckline, which is like this with a binding, and also it comes with a polo, which I don't think I'll ever make. And also the Henley version. The Henley has a button placket like a polo shirt, but it has like a binding of the neckline which cuts off into a button placket. I could say this is not your beginner friendly project. I would say it's for experienced beginners or intermediate sewers. It was not the easiest, however, with the instructions from Love Notions held my hand, because they've got a video tutorial that shows you how to sew up the button placket. That's what saved me from turning this project into a fail, but I'm glad I did it. And probably I recorded a few clips on how I got the sizing right, because it's not straightforward sewing for men, although women still, we've embraced sewing for ourselves. We know those alterations we need to make. So for my husband, I had to take his measurements. You find that his chest, then waist and hips all fall in different sizes. Then there was also another measurement I had to put into consideration that I've never had to deal with. That's the back width, and that's the distance between where your armpits are to the other side, the back width. So some men have broad shoulders, so I had to alter between different sizes. Probably I'll show you a clip on how I went about that to cater for the sizing. And I'll attach the clip there. And this particular pattern really wasn't just, it was an easy pattern because it comes with a crew neck. That's the pattern that anyone can sew. If you can sew a t-shirt, you can sew that. But the Henley wasn't the easiest option to choose. It's not something I would have chosen, and probably that's why I never bought that pattern, because I wasn't ready to try a polo or a Henley for anyone. However, they also have a children's pattern exactly with a polo and a Henley, and I bought it for my son, but I've never used it. But I think I only bought it for your basic t-shirt. And I'm going to show you how I got along to making that particular one. I'm going to show you the clips on the sizing, how I went about sizing. And then after that, I'll bring the model to the video. You have to be kind to him. It's his first time appearing on my YouTube channel. So I'm going to bring the model in so I can show you all the fitting and what I had to do right. Now with choosing the sizing for this pattern, I think it's not as straightforward sewing for men as it is for ladies. I took my husband's measurements, and his chest is a size 42.75, ideally 42 3/4. Then his waist is 40.5, and his hips at 46. And if I look at the measurements, looking at the size chart we have over here, his chest is 42.75, which lies between 42 and 43, so it's in between large and extra large. However, this pattern is drafted with quite some ease, so if you're in between sizes, they recommend that you go to a size lower. And his waist is 40.5, 40.5, which lies between extra large and 2XL, in between there. So I could take it to be extra large because still of the fitting, it's quite loose fitting. Then his hips come over at 46, and 46 would take him about here between 2XL and 3XL. So we've moved from in between here for his chest, in between here for his waist, and also in between here for his hips. And it doesn't make a lot of sense going down that road. So the best thing, because you can't blend through 3 sizes, I think it might not come out to the best shaping. The important thing to consider here is look at the finished measurements. So on looking at the finished measurements, if we said we are going to take large for his chest and also waist, because the finished measurements are giving us the sizing for the chest and the waist, they're not giving us hips, because the t-shirt won't get so low really, so the hips measurements can be left out. So for the chest, if we go with large, because we are close to large than we are to extra large, we shall see the finished measurement will be 43.5. That gives us an ease of 1.5 inches. And also we have to remember that we're working with knit fabrics, so knit fabrics stretch a bit, so that amount of ease, I think it's sufficient. Then for the waist, if we say we are going with extra large, and we said his waist was 40.5, because his waist came between extra large and 2XL. If we are going with 40.5, I know it's closer to 2XL, but for you to determine what to choose for the waistline, you look at the finished measurements. And if we look at the finished measurements of the waist, we have 46 for XL. So we can decide 46, whether it's something we would want or want it more tight fitting. So with that, I wouldn't want it extra, because now already with this 40.5, it's showing me that with the finished measurements, I have an extra 5.5 ease around the waist area, because most men are actually full around the waist area. So I'm confident with going with extra large although still I might imagine it might be a bit big, but to be on a safe side, I'll go with extra large because that gives me more room. So I'm going to go ahead, blend my pattern pieces from large to extra large at the hips and waist. I won't bother with blending into the hip sizing lower to 2XL since the pattern doesn't reach that far. And another important measurement to consider is the upper back. And with our sizing, his upper back came to 18. And if you're wondering what upper back is you take a tape measure and measure the back part of their bodies. That's running from almost close to where their armpits are to the other side in the back. That gives you how wide, shows you how wide their backs are. However, although I'm going to do chest at large, his upper back lands within extra large, so I have to also make that adjustment in the back to adjust for the XL, blend it to the XL in the back. So I'll show you how I get along with that. You might have noticed from the measurements that when we took the back width, so back piece, the back width showed us that it belonged to size XL. However, his chest size was within L. That's large. So what we are going to do actually, we're going to cut up the front piece at size large, both neckline, shoulder, blending in and blending in the chest to the waist at extra large. However, for the back piece, because the back width was within XL, to adjust for the extra width, we are going to cut our neckline at large, shoulder at large still, then we shall blend in from the shoulder to XL to get up for the back width, which was larger. So with that, we want the pattern piece to fit nicely also in the back. I'm going to cut the back piece in extra large all around apart from the neck and the shoulder, whereas the front piece is going to be large at the neckline, shoulder, arm side, and chest will still be large, which I'll blend into extra large at the waistline up to the hips, up to the hem. Whereas the back piece, we are going to go ahead and blend it in. We're going to blend in the shoulder. We are going to keep it at large at the neckline, large at the shoulder, which we shall blend into the extra large over here. Then we shall cut off extra large from the chest going down. So if you've got one of these interesting curved rulers, they come in handy. From large, and try to curve it in, then bring it in at extra large. So for this, we are keeping the shoulders and the neckline at large. Then we blended this into extra large. I'll go ahead and include our notches. And yes, for our front pieces, we are all right all the way here. I could say we are keeping it at large at the neckline, shoulders, and the arm side. Oh, one thing I forgot to tell you, like most PDF patterns, but at least I know we love Notions patterns, you have the option of printing off just the sizes you need. With myself, I always print off one size, but because I knew I needed to blend within two sizes, so I selected to print off large and extra large. If you're wondering, it just doesn't, it's a multi-size pattern. And we can estimate, we can tell that the chest lies between around here. So it's around here that I'll try to ease it into extra large. And they're fairly straight lines, so we don't have to do a lot of faffing around. So that's how I'm going to cut off my patterns. I'll go ahead, cut out my pattern pieces, cut out the fabric, and I get along with sewing. I'd like to show you the fit of the shirt. If you've seen from the measurements, we decided to go with size large for the neckline, shoulders, and we lengthened the shirt by 1 inch. However, I could say the shirt ended up being a bit long, so I took out half an inch, but still I'm glad that I lengthened it a bit. So the extra inch has brought it quite right above his hips. As you can see from the shoulders, the shirt comes up to his shoulder actually around this point, which is the right place. I went for the short sleeves and the proper length. I didn't bother with lengthening the sleeves because I didn't think it was needed. You can turn. like you've seen from the adjustments, we used his back width, that was this from here to here, and we said his back width had come to size XL, so we made the alteration for a wider back width, and I'm glad we did that because actually it fits right, it's at the right place. I don't know whether it's clear there. And of course the back ended up, I think the pattern is meant to be a bit loose in the back, and if you wonder why it's tight at the bottom, it's meant to have some side splits or slits. I would call them slits, but they call them by a different name. We decided to omit that because with that it was also ending up being wider because the split gives for more ease. And I could see another alteration we made, so we omitted those and I sewed it up down, mostly because it was an added piece of work in the construction. Later on, having constructed the placket, which we can all agree to wasn't the easiest thing. So also what I ended up doing, because now we ended up cutting the back piece at extra large and the front at large, which was an alteration that was needed to cater for his shoulders, his body in the back. Still, the pattern is drafted to be quite loose around the tummy area, around the waist area at the bottom, and it's not the fit was keen on, so we took out a little more extra here. It's not still as fitted, I could say semi-fitted. You could tell us how you feel about your t-shirt. It's just, we can't be serious, we can't take ourselves seriously in this video. He thinks I'm playing around, but yeah, that's our final shirt. And I sewed it out of this turquoise cotton jersey fabric, cotton spandex, and I picked it up from Fabrics for All. It's really a good quality one. It's quite strong and a good one. It has a good stretch and it bounces back. I couldn't get the exact color of thread to use because who can tell me where you can find a turquoise color? I know it's not coming off right. It's brushing out the color in the picture. I tried to get matching thread off eBay because we know you can't just get out to go look for thread in all the shops you can think of. So I decided to order for color off eBay, and this is the closest to turquoise I could find. It looks like a white that this color's run into, but I was like, what's the worst that could happen? So I knew I had a challenge of keeping my cover stitching to the tee, keep it neat so it looks nice. So I tried to my overcover stitch machine behaved and I had to take it quite slow. And I could say the most challenging part of making this t-shirt was sewing the placket, the button placket, and I'm glad of how it turned out. However, there was an optional feature of top stitching to the sides of the placket, top stitching to the side. However, I knew that was a recipe for disaster, considering that I didn't have matching thread, exact matching thread that would blend in. However, it was optional, considering that the buttons would hold the placket in, and also the buttonholes would. And also another challenge was sewing the buttonholes on a knit fabric. I used interfacing, I used woven interfacing to hold the button placket to sew them on. And I could say the first time you try on all the scrap pieces and the buttonholes are perfect until you get onto your fabric and then it messes up. So that the buttonholes and the buttons hold the placket in so it doesn't flip. So I decided to ignore the top stitching on top because just in case you mess up, it will be evident. And also the back was there was an option to use a binding to cover this seam. A binding, yeah, that's what they called it. I tried to use the binding to cover the seam in the back to give it that nice neat finishing, but it didn't come together too well because I didn't have enough fabric to cover it up. So I omitted that option and instead overlocked the seam, overlocked the edges, which still looks good. And I could say I'm not beating myself so hard with the thread that doesn't match exactly. I'm looking at it as a design feature. You never allow yourself to feel like you've been defeated. So I've taken it to be a design feature because the cover stitch machine really did a good job. And I had to just lengthen the stitch so it looks much better. So it looks like it was an intentional one because I didn't have much choice. And also I went for turquoise buttons, which I also bought online. It might come off as white, but they are a little bit turquoise. I had the option of going with snaps, but still I would land into the same place. I wouldn't be so sure I would get the exact color. Note to self, whenever you're choosing a fabric to use, make sure you have at the back of your mind, you've thought about the thread you'll be using. Because when I had to order thread, I had to order for about 5 spools to have enough for my overlocker and also for my sewing machine, and it's the same overlocker thread that I transfer onto my cover stitch machine. So you can't get away with just a few, so there was no room for looking for other threads, because that would be a loss. That's a lot of thread to give up on and order for others. And I've liked the way this has come up. I omitted the only alteration I made. I made a few alterations with the sizing up. I omitted the side hem, the side split, which would have given it more room around the waist area, but he always loves to wear his shirts semi-fitted. So yeah, in the end, he was really happy with it. And I'm so sure this is now the second t-shirt I've made him. I'm so sure I'm going to be asked to make many more. And he's happy with his pattern, with his t-shirt. And I could say, Adele, thank you for the challenge. This challenge has pushed me and has prepared me for our next challenge, whichever that will be. We've not yet agreed on what we shall be sewing up next, but I know the time we get to the point of sewing men's shirts, I'll be ahead of you, Adele, because I've been pushed into a corner where I've stretched out my boundaries. I could say, if you watch this video, I would like you to go ahead and watch Adele's video. I'll attach a link in the bottom, in the description box below, so you could watch her video and her take on the pattern I chose for her. And if you joined me here from Adele's channel, you're welcome. Feel at home. And if you don't mind, you could also subscribe and join the family over here. And thank you for watching. Tell me what you think. Would you want to try? Hope I've not put you off sewing a Henley. I know my challenges might not be everyone's challenges, but I'm glad I pulled it off. And if I can do it, you can also do it. For this particular one, I was glad that there was a video tutorial to show me how to sew up the Henley, and the same works for the polo. So that held my hand and I was able to sew up this, and I'm glad that I pushed myself. It has come out well. I'm really happy with it. Thank you, Adele, for this challenge. It's been a good one. And if you've come this far and you're actually not subscribed to my channel and you watch my videos, please subscribe and please comment. Let me know what you think about this pattern. What would you have done differently? Should I have increased the sizing, or you think that was the right decision? Let me know what you all think. I'm happy to learn. You could follow both of us on Instagram if you intend to sew up t-shirts for your men, and tag us in. We would like to put together all the various patterns people have tried to motivate other people to sew for the men in their lives. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you for sticking around. Until next time, bye.